Today we're doing a classic tomato sauce or sauce tomat from Escoffier, and this is one of the 5 mother sauces. Your mise en place is going to be a large skillet, high heat spatula, chef knife. You're going to need your bowl scraper and a wire whisk. Your ingredients are clarified butter, a brunoise of mirepoix, some flour, a container of tomatoes, chicken stock, items for your sachet. Notice that we are using fresh garlic in this one, and then some salt, pepper, and sugar that will be added at the end. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start like we typically do lately. We're going to go ahead and preheat our stovetop, and we are going to add our clarified butter, and we are going to prepare to saute our mirepoix vegetables. Now, the last time we sauteed mirepoix vegetables for the espagnole sauce, we caramelized them. We don't want to caramelize or need to caramelize these. We just want to get the aromatics out, so we're going to sweat them. And sweating means we're just going to, again, get the moisture out so it looks like the vegetables are sweating. So, preheated. And we'll go ahead and saute these, get them nicely coated. While the vegetables are sauteing, we're going to go ahead and lay out our cheesecloth. And we are going to get our ingredients. So we've got our bay leaf, our thyme, peppercorns, and parsley. And what we're going to do with the garlic is we're just going to smash it. We're not going to chop it up. We're going to use the broad side of the knife, and we want to just kind of flatten it. We don't want to work it too much. I don't want the flavor and the oils from the garlic to go anywhere but into the sachet. So once you hear a pop, just go ahead and throw them in there like that. And then we'll go ahead and tie this up like we do our normal sachet. After about 3 or 4 minutes, our onions mixture is getting nice and cooked. We're going to add our flour. We'll use the Sanjay method again. And we're going to make a roux with the fat. Now this roux is not going to be, we could probably call this a white roux. It's really just to help the sauce stay together. It's not as much about thickening as it is binding. So once we get all of the fat absorbed and we've got our flour cooked, we're going to go ahead and add our chicken stock. And we're going to go ahead and add our tomato product. And what you're going to do with your canister with tomatoes, you're just going to put a little bit of water in it. We're going to swirl it around, and we're going to pick up all the leftover tomato, and we'll just throw that in there as well. And then we'll throw in our sachet. So while this is going, our goal here is we want to break down these tomatoes. And so you can either chop them up coarsely before you throw them into your sauce, or you can use your spatula, or the wire whisk works well. And what we're going to do is we're going to let this simmer probably for about a half hour. So once you get this going, we're going to turn your heat to a medium. We're going to let it come to a simmer, and then come see me about an activity or a job, and we're going to kind of let this go, because what we want to do is we want to make sure that we, as we simmer it, we're breaking down the tomatoes, and they get more and more tender, and it'll start to resemble a more conventional tomato sauce. This sauce is used kind of like the Espanol. It's a base. We don't generally eat it by itself, so we'll use it as an ingredient for some of our other sauces. So we'll end up straining out all the solids. It'll kind of look like ketchup or just plain tomato sauce when it's all said and done. So we want to get that to a nice simmer. And we're going to let that go for, like I said, about 30 minutes. After about 5 minutes, you see a nice kind of even simmer happening. We're going to take our spice mixture. It's going to be our seasoning salt and just a touch of sugar. And the sugar is not for sweetness, it's to kind of counteract the acidity that's in the tomatoes. Because we did not concasse these tomatoes. They are whole tomatoes, so there is acid in them. So we're just going to put a little bit of seasoning and a little bit of sugar in here, and that should help balance everything out. So about 10 minutes in, after the seasoning's put in, it's starting to get a rich tomato sauce look. The tomatoes are starting to break up nice and easy. And at some point, we may reduce this down, because obviously when we simmer something, we're reducing. It's okay. We are going to replenish it, and we can add a little bit of water throughout this. We want to keep it pretty similar to this level. So if we end up losing some of the water through reduction, we can simply add some water at a later time. But we don't want it to reduce too much, because we're eventually going to strain this through a coarse chinois, and we'll get rid of all the big solids. But I'm just kind of taking my whisk, and you can feel the tomato pieces, and they're just kind of breaking apart. Okay, so we're about 20-25 minutes in. You can see it's breaking up nicely, and we're just about ready to strain it. But we want to kind of get through there with our wire whisk and make sure we're getting as much of the product broken up as possible, and it's nice and loose before we strain it. So it looks like our simmering, we've been doing a really good job. You can see it's reduced down just a little bit, but I have not added any water. So it does not look like you're going to need to add water. Although, like I said, I'd rather you add water if you feel like it's burning or it's getting too thick. But this is still nice and saucy. You can see how it's kind of thickened up nicely. Once we strain all the solids out, we should have something that's very similar to like a velouté or an Espanol sauce. So we're going to turn it down just a little bit, and we'll go about 10 more minutes. After a total of about 30 minutes simmering, we've got ourselves a nice thickened, enriched sauce, and we're going to go ahead and use a china cap, or I'm sorry, a chinois. Make sure that we're going to use a coarse one today. We'll have a community bucket, and we are going to carefully pour it in. And we will scrape out what we need. Kind of press through with our spatula. You can hear and see that if I press the vegetables up against the side, we're pushing out all of the sauce and the juice. And then at the end of it, we will have our leftover, and we'll discard that. And this will be a great sauce that we'll be able to use when we're ready to make a marinara sauce, a meat sauce. Use it for any type of tomato-based sauce. So that is a sauce tomat.